Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spin Rack. I'm here with the boys, PD and Cal. Say what's up, gents.
What's going on?
Ready to rock.
Hey, today we're discussing Hellboy, the Crooked Man, the trailer that just dropped. Selector, please drop it. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Something in these hills. Something haunted. Evil. Smells like death.
How do you know that?
Dark things called dark things. I heard tales about him all my life. Most just called him the Crooked Man. He's got company.
All your friends, they all gonna die.
Go.
Okay, I have one question. Why do they keep doing Hellboy?
That's something we need to discuss. I was about to say the same thing.
Oh, you guys, we had a very successful first movie.
Yeah, and since then,
The second one did okay, but the thing was they decided to, wasn't they wanted to do other movies, but it wasn't that they wasn't jumping for a new one right after that. Of course, since you have a successful first one, the reboot of what they did, even though it had all the stories, it definitely didn't catch with people. So, but you still remembered that, hey, it happened, so they're going again. And this is another different tone than the last two, since the first one was kind of more superhero. The second series had a lot of the folklore, but it was still kind of connected to the BRDP. So it was kind of a mix of less superhero, a little more horror, and this one's going on towards the full horror with sort of the period where Hellboy is kind of a character that just kind of roams around.
I mean, it's pretty interesting that I didn't realize they went back that far with Hellboy. I thought he was a more modern creation.
Yeah, 90s.
Here, no, but I'm saying here they're saying the story takes place in the 50s, right? The 1950s. Not
Oh,
late.
he was born after the end of the war in 1944.
yeah, World War II. I'll help you out. World War II.
So the fact that he is, this story is what's happening here. I just, they want to have a comic book.
They made one Green Lantern movie. Okay? They made one Green Lantern movie. People said they didn't like it. They have not tried to do anything else with Green Lantern in about what? Over 10 years? Maybe as long as 20 years? 4 Hellboy movies. 4. Okay, so I don't understand. I don't understand who's like greenlighting these, but obviously they think there is something to this character that works because they keep doing it. And I don't see the numbers, okay, the audience reaction, any of it that would make me say, okay, yeah, this is something that we should still see more of it. If this just kind of looking to hit its stride. This is 4 films, not like with no support of, say, a regular comic book, no support of an animated series, no TV series or something. This guy's got 4 films. I don't quite understand it.
There is the support of having, it still has a comic book series, not regular comic book series, but they
regular comic series is what I mean. Regular.
Yeah, because it's been going on, and obviously there's still a market because they've had animated stuff that they've done, and of course there's novels that have been out. They haven't had a full-on animated series, but ultimately, I think the hard part for the last one, outside of him looking a little more scarier than the ones we've seen from the first one and this one, was that Ron Perlman and Guillermo del Toro, they kind of pulled away from saying anything about it. And Ron Perlman was like, I'm not with this and that and the other, as if Guillermo del Toro and Ron Perlman were like the creators of it, even though it was Mike Mignola. It's like he took the water character and did his Shape of Water story with Mignola's water character, but people kind of look at that Hellboy, at least for that third movie, were like, hey, this is a Guillermo del Toro movie. Why are they doing it without him? So it was and Ron Perlman kind of didn't dispel them of that myth, kind of saying like, I'm not going to, I said no to this because it didn't have Guillermo del Toro, but it does have the creator in it, but that caught a negative buzz because a lot of times people didn't really look at the actual stories that were in there that were in that last movie. But he did look kind of wacky as far as the costume design, but now they kind of pulled back to this. Ultimately, I don't think they should try to go for anything big. This looks like a small horror film, so hopefully it can stay in that realm and you can have kind of a smaller side kind of movies with them. But ultimately, at the same time, I'm not for, if it didn't work, 2 years ago, then let's do another one, which is basically going. But they did at least go back to the look of how he was before, closer to the look of what it was. I have to give him that. The hard part is the first one, when I look at it, even though it has a lot of good stuff, it has a lot of stuff to sell you on the character. Since it's Hellboy, they got a ton of cats running around him. He's got candy that he's eating. Like one of the movies, he's saving a baby while finding the monsters. All this stuff to sell you on, hey, he's kind of normal type of deal. Whereas the other one, I mean, it was kind of closer to the comic book, even though he kind of looked wacky and had more hair. And then this one is just going to that Roman character that Mignola had. That's from I think the 70s to the 90s, where he just kind of roams around and runs into different monster stories.
So I'm looking at this site called Numbers, right? Numbers. It's this site called Numbers, which gives financial breakdown on movies and stuff like that. So the very first Hellboy cost $60 million. And it made $99 million, right? The second one, The Golden Army, Hellboy 2, cost $82 million budget, and they put a worldwide budget of made $160 million, so that was definitely profit. The other one was marginal. And the third one cost $50 million, and it made $53 million. Altogether, it cost about almost $200 million to make it a return. When you include the video sales, about $400 million, not counting what they put on TV. Yeah. So I can see why they're doing it. They're not. It's not a knockout home run, but there seems to be a small market for it, and especially when they look at the numbers for the second one, which made a lot. They're like, hey, probably if we can just reach that, if we keep the budget low enough, $50 million, because the last one was $50 million, probably we could make turn this out. With her, people.
I still don't get it. Okay, because you're saying with the last one, pretty much that one was bust. Okay, and then you got to factor in all this. You got to factor in all this other type of stuff towards getting your money. If that's the case, then I would love to see the numbers on something like like a Green Lantern movie. Okay, and say, well, okay, at the end of the day, how much money did this movie make when you factor in all this other type of stuff? Because we don't normally do that for movies. It's what it's what it cost. Okay, and then how much you made at the box office, not factoring all this other type of stuff. If that's the case, then it would be exponentially different for a whole bunch of other films. But I say again, 1 Green Lantern movie, 2 Wonder Woman movies, 4 Hellboy movies. Okay, so I would love to be there with the people who are greenlighting this. Is like, hey, what is it about this particular character that you guys are willing to keep putting money behind, especially when I'm not seeing the return? You've had one movie that was pretty successful. That was the second one, according to these numbers. What is it? That's all I would like to know. Okay, no problem with Hellboy as a character, any of that type of stuff. But I know how these things usually go. And if they don't make money, they don't tend to come back. Okay. So Hellboy is in that particular thing. Okay, we tried it, did all right, did better the second one. Oh, third one didn't do too well. And the third one was a reboot. A reboot of the character. Okay, I guess the audience doesn't want to see that. No, we're going to do another one. So that I find very interesting.
I definitely hear you on that. The only difference is having something that wasn't initially panned. Like having something that panned, and as you say, being the television, whatever, DVD, all of that stuff. If you had something like panned and didn't do well, like Green Lantern, then you have something like they'll even though Wonder Woman did bad, they're gonna even in retooling the other stuff so they can't do Wonder Woman 3. They're gonna continue to do another Wonder Woman now because they knew
When was Green Lantern? Like
Green
what
Lantern,
was that like?
2011.
Huh? 2011?
Yeah, it made 200 million. It cost
No, not the money. What was the year?
2011.
Okay, so it's 2011. So it's been 10 years. They haven't attempted anything with this character. Okay, they haven't
They are coming
attempted
out with a TV show. They're coming out with a TV show this year.
No. They haven't attempted anything with this character. Okay, since 2011, there's been no attempt at a film. There's been no attempt at a film with this particular character. This is a more recognizable character than Hellboy. Okay, it's without a doubt, Green Lantern is a more recognizable character, and that movie didn't do well. Okay, didn't do well. Yeah, it was panned. Okay, great. But this is still a more viable. This is a character that should be recognizably more viable. And say, look, what were the mistakes we did over here? Okay, let's try something else. Nothing.
Well,
Nothing.
you can't factor in a show that or a character that didn't work. Like the idea of like say, and this is not I'm trying to think of a character because I know there's other characters you can kind of look at because you look at the fact that characters like say Batman are dead in the water after Batman and Robin. At some point they're going to be like, we're going to do it again. So at the same time, that's not the same inference. I'm just trying to quickly throw a movie in there. You think in the sense of like, what was it, like Spawn, where Spawn, he said this double, it wasn't, as far as movie-wise, something that garnered a sequel or any interest or something that could get replayed after that. So going to Green Lantern is a tough one because Green Lantern, didn't have thing to say, we want to retool this because we had these initial numbers. There's something where you're like, we didn't know that, it's hard to use Batman and Superman because at the same time, they didn't really know that there was anything there. And then they say in the failure of the fourth one of each of those movies, they're like, okay, it's dead in the water. Actually, both times they're like superheroes are dead. They're totally dead. And then someone wakes up and says, you know what, we need a new Superman, that sort of thing. So it's in that realm, but a lesser so. So I'm thinking in the lines of something like, I'm trying to think of a movie that was in the middle of the road that did okay, and then they would go back. I'm mostly thinking of like action movies where it's like, hey, let's pick this thing back up. So it's hard to use Green Lantern because Green Lantern didn't have that. They did go in and make some TV shows animated, and they're trying to do the series now. But it's like we got to get some point where you have a hit where you can say we're going to retool. Whereas the same thing is, whereas it would make sense for Marvel to say like Blade, to say like, okay, Blade should be redone, but then Marvel had so much other stuff they wanted to do. It's now they're just using it as a pawn where they're like, hey, there's so much buzz with a new one, way more buzz than Hellboy.
No, I look at this where you have a character. I mean, well, I'm using Green Lantern. You have a character like Green Lantern where you see what the potential of this character is. You see that he's had a long life. In comics, this is something we should be manipulating and getting out there at the end of the day. All right, we tried it the first time, didn't work. All right, no, you should still be trying to work with this. The Spider-Man TV series was not this overwhelming success. That didn't stop them and say, hey, look, we're never doing Spider-Man live action again. We're only going to do animated in comic books. No, this guy works. We're going to keep trying to get him out there. All right, so for whatever reason, they don't want to do that with Green Lantern, but I want to know. That's all I'm saying. I want to be in the room and say like, hey, what is it about this guy? 4 films.
You can't use it. You can't use that as a reference because you have to have something that had at least the initial run, some sort of interest.
Blade was a more successful franchise. 3 films. Hellboy, not as successful. 4 films. You like this guy. That's all it is. Why do you like this guy? Tell me.
It's not about liking Hellboy. It's about.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people making the decisions. I'm talking look, they like this guy. I'm like, what is it about him? You like him?
They don't. I'm saying you can't. It's hard to go to a Hollywood producer and say, hey, here's a good history of this character, and they say, no, isn't that the movie? That's the worst DC movie out. It's not the worst DC movie out. It's like it has Ryan Reynolds in it. It's like Nope,
It's
that's the
working.
worst.
So then I really want to hear, that's what I'm saying. I want to hear the Hellboy pitch. Because I would love to go there and say, hey, look, we want to do another Hellboy movie. Well, the last movie bombed, right? We spent 50 million on it, made 53. You know, why are we going to put more money into this? But somebody's buying it. I want to hear that pitch. I want to sell my own stuff the
You know
same
what
way,
it is? It's
especially if
like,
it's not successful.
the hard part is that if you have something that at least has some sort of thing that happened in the, like, say, I don't know, like Kick-Ass. At some point, someone's gonna wake up and say, we need to do another Kick-Ass, and then you'll get it out there. But at the same time, he's all tied up in what's that thing? He's tied. Well, that's the best example is saying you have Kick-Ass, you have that creator, all his stuff being bought, Mark Miller's stuff being bought. Now his stuff is kind of in a halt because of the struggles of the Jupiter's Legacy. But at some point, someone's gonna look and say, didn't that Kick-Ass, or didn't that what was it, the Kingsman? Didn't this stuff hit for us? Let's bring this back. And there's so many other properties that got the wrong deal. I mean, I would even go to say I could still watch like The Rocketeer, right? I could watch The Rocketeer. You know, I know that Disney kind of, well, Rocketeer, was it John Carter of Mars? Both of those things Disney kind of pulled out of the promotion of it, kind of said, hey, you know, for Rocketeer, they wanted to own it outright. So they were like, since Dave Stevens isn't giving it to us, we're not going to promote it. They did the one poster. They maybe had one poster. They didn't make a big deal of it. It wasn't anything they expected John Carter to fail, and it did. Oh, you know, I guess it just kind of made its money back. But they could have promoted it and made it into something. And then next thing you know, they're sitting around there saying, "Well, that Rocketeer ain't working. This, that, and ain't working. Let's go to Kick-Ass. That was a big thing, wasn't it? Let's go in there." Then you get the pitch. I want to do new Kick-Ass. We want to get a tight new costume, this, that, and the other. And then you get the idea. I know that, and I get what you're definitely saying, because you have so many projects that we look at and we say, this could work as a film, or we know it can work. And they're just like, well, no, you have this thing that stunk up the place. It's like, no, we've had other DC things. The Justice League stunk up the place, and they're trying to re-release it to theaters right now. It's like, no, Green Lantern really stunk. It's like, no, look, it's better. No.
But you know, Peter, you gotta look at, I think Kick-Ass didn't make a ton of money either, you know? I mean, I guess it just, the reception probably was better. But, I mean, the first movie made about less than $100 million.
Yeah.
Made about less than that.
Hellboy is just defying conventional wisdom, from where I sit. Normally, you do the first film, you make that type of money. You'd be lucky if you get a second film. Then you do the second film, it does better. Okay, great. And then after that, we don't even see a third film for years. When we see the third film, that one's not successful. Usually, okay, that's pretty much it. We're going to put you in this nice warm coffin, and we'll see you in 10, 15 years. No.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
I think what you're missing is
we're seeing this one a lot sooner. Yeah, we're seeing this one a lot sooner than what would happen. So I'm like, okay, you're not really making. I mean, you're giving like a full breakdown of the numbers. You're not very profitable at the end of the day. So what is it about this particular franchise that these guys are like, no, we want to do another one. We're gonna do another one.
What I think is that the people who own the IP really are pushing it. You know, they're really pushing it to get this movie made. That's the same way that you have Conan. Yes. That's the same that you have Conan. And they moved out of Marvel because they wanted, first it was with Dark Horse, Marvel, and Dark Horse went back to Marvel because they're pushing these characters. They want to make movies. They want to do TV shows. They want to do other things. And so if you have someone who wants to do something with this, even if you're not crazy, they see a market, they're going to go for it.
Well, no.
That's a hard one.
You pointed out something that makes sense. That goes back to the Salkinds and Superman. At the same time, what's his name? Mike Mignola said at some point before the Hellboy movie got made, he was hoping it would come back. As long as someone has the license and you still have the years in terms to make a new movie, they're gonna make a new movie as long as they're gonna keep holding on to the IP. So it's like, hey, let's retool it, and maybe we'll listen to this Mignola guy a little more this time. So it's like, if you have the IP and you don't want it to go back, you got to make another movie. And that's what they seem to be doing. I mean, there's a big gap between, what was it, was it the Golden Army and the last Hellboy film, but it
I,
is
I,
really
look,
soon since after,
see,
wasn't it?
the example using with the Salkins were overwhelmingly successful with the Superman IP. Okay, and then when
I
the
don't know
films
what
didn't
that.
work, and then when the no, those guys were overwhelmingly successful with
Well,
that, more
I'm
so
not
than
talking about the success. I'm saying that as long as the idea that the IP goes back
Mhm.
to the creator,
But
if you
that's the
don't do
point.
another movie,
That's the point I'm trying to make here.
that's the thing.
These guys were the Salkins were overwhelmingly successful with the Superman IP. When the films were no longer working for them, they went to syndicated TV with Superboy. That was a success for them. They still lost the IP because DC just wanted it back. They didn't care. They were like, "Look, we've done a really good job with this. We're making money. We got this stuff. Nah, we want it back." They just wanted it back in house. So even with the success at the end, even with the success, they were successful with it. They wanted to do another. They wanted to do another film. They have manipulated. What is it? They did Superman. They did Supergirl. They did Superboy. So it wasn't like they contained it to one particular aspect. Better success in certain areas. Okay, and they still took the IP back. So
Well,
I understand
there's
about the.
different. The difference with Mignola, not once
Mhm.
you license it, then you wait for it to come. They can relicense as they go along. It's not a thing of where he was like he had to wait till the license get when they're like we're not making a movie, we have no interest in making a movie. Then it comes back to the creator. So that's for DC or Warner Brothers. Maybe I'm not you would know that, but for Mignola, he said like maybe maybe it should come back. I don't know what this movie is going to look like. Hoping it would come. And a lot of creators, obviously, who is that? The whole Watchmen thing. Well, that those are the things. It comes back to the creators at those periods. But anyway, I definitely hear you. But it's interesting that point of it's just when you're talking about Kick-Ass and the money, you have to think about it on the other side. That the whatever happened with Kick-Ass did lead to Netflix looking at his work and the Kingsman and them saying, "Hey, this guy has done stuff. He got 2 movies. The Kingsman got 3, and I don't think the second one did that well, but they somehow led to the Netflix deal, and now it feels like it's slowed up. But then at some point, Mark Miller go to another studio, someone give him some more money, we get another Wanted series because Wanted was big when it came out. Big. Well, I don't know if it was that big a movie, but ultimately he's doing more comic books.
I like
What?
Wanted.
It had nothing to do with the comic. Nothing.
That's just going in. So yeah, I mean, I agree. It's if they have they own these rights and they do what they have to do with it. We don't have to necessarily agree with it. We don't have to support it, but they see an audience where we don't necessarily see one, right?
It is interesting how it would get made. It is interesting to say how it was very soon, as Cal was saying, it is very soon after the failure of the last one, and it's really soon after to get the money to have someone back it after you have such a big failure. But somehow we got
I try to take this in. Usually at least my understanding of these decisions, especially when it's time to make something, they'll look for something that's already been shown to be successful.
Mhm.
Okay, something that's recognizable, something that's been successful. So because that also keeps costs low. So I don't have to promote something new and explain it to people. I can just say, okay, look, this is a character everybody knows, and so on and so on and so forth. Okay, great. So I would think. I mean, what you would look at like what is I was just watching the Spanish series for when I say Spanish, I mean Spain, for Zorro. It was like they made a TV series for Zorro. No brainer. Okay, no brainer. Zorro's got like a bunch of in terms of medium between TV and film. No big deal. We want to do something with Zorro. Okay, great. Yeah, we all know Zorro. Costumes, no big deal. Everybody knows how it is. We can do a little, tinkering around the edges if we need to, so on and so forth. No problem. But since 1919 to this point, Zorro is overwhelmingly successful. Okay, Zorro is heavily in the plus column. So that's just like, hey, no big deal. That's not a hard sell. Okay, that's not a hard sell, period. And Zorro's not a hard sell in international media for that matter. Okay, so you can get Zorro going. That's not a big problem. That's my understanding of how these decisions are made. Mind you, if Zorro comes out and I already said this, if Zorro comes out and Zorro doesn't do too well, okay, we put Zorro to bed. We'll come back, we'll come back to him another 5-10 years or something. Usually it's like about 10, long enough for the audience to forget. But they'll even say, hey, look, there's a Spanish Zorro series over here that's doing pretty well. We should do something. That's what they did with Sherlock Holmes when they had like 3 different things going on between the BBC, American television with Elementary, and then they had the Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes. 3 different versions of Sherlock Holmes, and because he was he was just that popular at the time. So that's my understanding of how these decisions get made. Hellboy is just defying the conventional wisdom and defying the expectations that you would have for a character that, if I'm going by, the numbers you're giving, Mars, is not that profitable at the end of the day. But they like this character and they think that there's good stuff to be had from him at the end of the day. I don't disagree. And the thing is, I don't disagree with that, because this is what they used to do for music. This is what they used to do for television, and it's what they used to do for movies. It was like, hey, we got something here. We need to get this right, get it to the audience, and they're gonna like it. We know this is viable. They would take chances. They would develop it over time. Hellboy is actually almost like in retrograde of what they used to do with these type of characters or these type of franchises. We're like, no, this is good. This is good at the end of the day. We just got to keep this in the public eye, and we got to, we keep this with it. It's going to hit its stride. And once it hits its stride, we're going to be fine. We're never going to have to look back. So, that's where I would see it at the end of the day, because number wise, most of the time, something like Hellboy, you would never see that again. He's going on film number 4, where some guys have only had film number 1.
I see what you're saying, but what I looked at is also what's going on, right? So who's the one who's principally behind it? It's a company named Millennium Media. They literally announced in February of 2023 about the movie, and they were able to complete principal photography by May of 2023. They started in Bulgaria filming in 2023, and they were able to finish the whole movie by May 15th. So that's a pretty fast wrap. So this company, what they do a whole bunch of other movies too, right? I mean, they've done the I think the Beekeeper, just to get the Expendable movies series. They have the Hitman's Bodyguard, Leatherface, Day of the Dead, Rambo: Last Blood. So Kill Chain, The Outpost, The Protege. So these are all familiar. The Bricklayer. So they've done these familiar. So they have a specific budget type of what they put: low budget action or low budget horror. And so this is just one more in their group of films. So for them, it doesn't necessarily have to be super successful, but this is something that the package, because they own all these different films or involved in all these films, and say, hey, when you buy our stuff, you're buying a range of different things. So we have a comic horror film, we have an action flick, we have a comedy action flick, And so Millennium, I think that's what they're doing. And remember, I always tell you guys this, that when they make these movies, that $50 million that it costs to make, they always say, oh, they didn't make this is how much it costs to make. But let's break down the cost. Part of the cost of making this movie is that them paying themselves. They're renting their own sound stages.
Now you're getting into the Mason Cam portion, which is.
I've been saying this for the longest.
But I'm saying that thing of saying, hey, it costs $50 million, and in actuality, for a concert, they say it costs us that, and it costs $7 million, and then they pay themselves. But no, before you go, I just wanted to say the point I was just pointing out. It was just a tidbit of talking about the either Green Lantern or Wonder Woman, because not the struggle that Wonder Woman's had, but the idea that Green Lantern was there's many other things you could probably do a better inference for. I'm just saying Green Lantern was one that had this being panned, even if it did okay. And then the female superhero movies, you had the Supergirl, the Elektra, and stuff like that. So it was such a hard time to get these things done. So it's just those examples, not the idea of what you're saying. I'm just saying use those examples specifically. I was disagreeing with, not with the overall content. So I know we're going back and forth a little, but I just want to say just those movies. But the idea I get, but it's like those examples were just, I think, which obviously Green Lantern is a very good property. I would love to see, but I know once you have the stink of failure on it to the DC people, they'll be like, we can't do it. The same with the Wonder Woman. We can't do it after Wonder Woman was sleeping with this guy and this, that, and the other. No, Wonder Woman's been out for years. It's only been subtly canceled by by Crisis, and then they had to correct that mistake. So just to correct that point on my point.
Well, DC's, I don't know. DC may not be the best example because DC comes over here and it's like, oh, we can't do it. The movie was a failure. It's Superman. What do you mean you're not going to do any more movies? No, we can't do it anymore. Put that Bat guy up. So DC's terrible with it. Disney, oh man, I used to give Disney a lot of credit because Disney never really canceled anything. Disney was just like, all right, this didn't do too well. This is going in the vault. We'll bring it back out later. But they would manipulate that stuff. They would make the movie, they would make the TV show, they would make the game, they would do all that type of stuff. You had all levels with it at the end of the day. But usually, I mean, I'll be honest, I'm listening to Mars over here, really, I'm surprised he's giving this much nuance, to Hellboy. So I'm wondering, what he's got in the tank at the end of the day, why he's doing it. Because normally I could see myself coming in, like if I was the guy like, hey, I want to make a movie. What do you want to do? Hellboy. It was like, well, didn't you make like $3 million profit? I lost money in that movie. Get the F out of here. You're not making that movie. And don't ever come in this office again. Now we're doing this really good breakdown of the numbers here. So I wonder what you got going on the side there, Mars. I wonder what you got going on.
Hey, resume's in with Millennium too, okay? So
let's stop lying.
Resume's in, so I'm pushing
he might have just sent it in today after this minute or saw what they cost for the movies, but I'm pretty sure he hadn't looked or heard of them before that. He knows Blumhouse or whatever it is called, but not Millennium. Now he knows.
Yeah, but
he's doing the Superman Returns breakdown. I had to use that argument. People like that movie flopped. I was like, no, it was very profitable for Warner Brothers, and they still didn't want to do a sequel. No, it wasn't. Look at the budget. And I was like, look, the budget is one thing, but you have to remember that the budget was also with these other movies that they were making. They got packed on to Superman Returns with those other films. That was all part of it, so it had to make back not just the money for itself, but all these other ones. But look how much money it made off the toys and this and that. It was very profitable for them. All that matters is the film numbers at the end of the day. Nobody cares. So my hat's off to you, Mars. That's really what you should be looking at, because they make, where do most movies make the majority of their money? They don't make the majority of their money from the theaters. They make it from the licensing. So that's all the tie-in stuff when you're going to McDonald's and you're buying a Batman burger so you can get one of those glasses or whatever that they make. That's where the real money is, because it's not attached to anything else. And the film, the film stuff, of course you want to make money, okay, but that's pretty much the payback and to make other films. But the licensing is where all the real money is at.
Yeah. You can't. It's like there's no. I mean, no. The licensing for Hellboy, there might be some action figures. And the new action figures from, I don't know which company is going to be doing this. There is some nice action figures that are out there, but like there's only, I think the last was when I think the first Hellboy series came out, Mezco, they did a dual thing. They did movie action figures and comic book action figures, which was pretty cool that they would be able to do that. I don't know that there's anything with Millennium doing anything outside of the stuff that they already have, but it is a good point, definitely point when it comes to the big deal. When I really dislike when who was it? George Lucas said he was an independent filmmaker, because he's basically using a lot of it's his companies that were making these movies. I'm an independent filmmaker. It's like, not with that McDonald's contract. You can get some Star Wars stuff from McDonald's. There ain't no independent filmmaker. Get in the Happy Meal. You kidding?
Funny as hell, bro. Funny as hell. So listen, the fact of the matter is, they're different companies, right? The company that owns Hellboy and the company that owns Wonder Woman and Green Lantern are two different companies. So they have two different things. So let's go back with Fox, when you had Fox that ran the X-Men universe, right? They were releasing X-Men on their own time, doing what they wanted to do, versus Marvel, which was doing their separate thing. And then you also have Sony. All are doing their own thing separately, and you have to use it according to that. So this company, they don't have X-Men, they don't have Wonder Woman, they have Hellboy, and they're saying, we're going to utilize this particular property because we think it can make money for us. That's it.
All right, that wasn't the point that I was making, even though, I thought what you said was well formed and well executed. Bottom line is, you have characters that are more popular, more executable than this one, okay? And this character has been executed more times than the more popular, okay? The character that's made more money, the character that's more recognizable is not being manipulated and this one is. And I think this is being taken the wrong way. I'm not slating Hellboy. I'm not slating Hellboy. I'll say it one more time. I'm not slating Hellboy. I'm saying, why is this character, okay, defying expectations where a character that should be on fifth film or sixth film hasn't even had one? That's the question that I'm putting to it.
Again, I keep saying DC is a different animal.
This is not a DC. This is not a DC question, because I could say the same thing for Marvel. I could say the same thing for a whole bunch of other companies that have the license to certain characters and they won't make the film. All they're doing is just holding the license so no one else can make a film.
Well, yeah, that's the only difference I would put in for saying the DC, as Mars was saying, the DC or Marvel stuff, is that these things get tied up for no good reason. Like, even the delays on this stuff. So it makes more sense to be like, you had a Black Panther movie, you did have a passing, but at the same time, you had a success. You might probably try to meet that success immediately, rather than saying, you know what, we'd rather get Spider-Man to $1 billion, even though we already got $1 billion with the Black Panther, that sort of thing. So I think I definitely, it is, if you would put any of those characters on the, on the open market, you would definitely not pick Hellboy first. You would pick Green Lantern. You definitely pick Wonder Woman before that. And then, but at the same time, when you have, you already know that these things are just tied up. They're not, we get all the Marvel and DC stuff is in a bad way where you can't get any sort of traction on this thing, because they're like, this Wonder Woman is now, even though we have a third film already budgeted, money all there, this, that, and the other. We had a negative buzz on the second one and the pandemic, so we're just shelving it for anything that who's that guy wants to do, which is regretfully missing the mark when you have a character that's at least shown has legs on film, which I don't think they knew that they did. They've done, what did they do? They did Catwoman, they did Supergirl, and that sort of stuff, and they had a TV show that ran 3 seasons. So, why not do another Wonder Woman film? Why wait? Why put all this other stuff before it, But it does feel like it's more the, the license part of saying we're utilizing this. And it seems like they figured out a way to do it. The production, at least in the trailer, doesn't look terrible. So they, probably do a lot of cutaways and stuff to kind of somehow keep that budget down, because a lot of money has to go into the Hellboy actual makeup. But, it is a strange thing that it's this quick. And, you have other things. I'm trying to think of more independent stuff, but the hard part is, I think Spawn did okay, not enough to do another movie. But then, it sounds like, I guess Jamie Foxx is in, we're not sure what stage he's in to do, on whatever stage he would want to do it, but they probably waiting for them to have money before they do another Spawn movie. So that's the only thing I can think of close to it, because I know The Mask, they did 2 films, but they obviously realized they're not doing another Mask without Jim Carrey, or someone equivalent to that. So they are not ready to jump around and do another Mask film.
Okay, so I think we put this to bed then.
No, we didn't.
You sure?
Another hour.
Are you sure?
I'm done.
Because I know if I make a comment, all of a sudden, that's where I didn't say anything. I know if I make a comment, all of a sudden you're going to start, doom scrolling, looking for more information to support whatever new idea that you're having.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So we are done with this. Spinner rack.
Out.